anything that makes the guitar sound weird, I like it. Which is, you know, delays, you know, whatever. I mean, I'll use all of it. So the first guy that really tweaked me that way was Pat Travers. And he had a really good basic, you know, Marshall tone, but then he had like Leslie speakers, and he had the 88 flangers and wah pedals and delays, and I was like, okay, I got to figure out how this is done. You know, so where a lot of guys would go off at woodshed technique, I was trying to figure out, you know, okay, what is that, and why does it sound that way? And I just started kind of messing around with pedals. And
did you have P90s in your guitar?
No. I had a Gibson Marauder at that point, you know, so you know, that guitar. But it's a Telecaster that looks like a Les Paul, basically. You know. Then I got into Lifeson, you know, which is kind of, it's a logical progression because it's a lot of similar stuff going on there. And from there it was Gary Moore, and Moore, not so much the tone, but the delay. You know, it was like, oh, delay. You know, I had to figure out how he was doing that, you know, because there's, like, if you listen to Vixen to the Future, there's a lot of reverb on it, there's a lot of delay too.
I like the pick attack.
Yeah.
Also in the sound on that album, and you could hear the attack of the pick against the string.
So I guess, you know, for me, you know, a lot of the guys that I grew up with, you know, playing with, you know, I would hear these sounds and I would be like, okay, how am I going to get there? And I'd start screwing with stuff trying to get there. And, you know, people would plug into their little PVs or whatever, their crates, and, you know, turn the treble all the way up. And, you know, you stand in front of the amp and they hit a chord and you just go, oh God, you know, just the treble would just destroy you. So one of the things that I've done over the years is, you know, I don't use much high end. I mean, I roll it out because I want to be able to stand in front of the amp, hit an A chord, and not have it hurt my ears.
Right. You want to feel it rather than.
Yeah, and I want it to be big but not painful, and I think that's kind of what Van Halen's doing too. You know, it's similar thing.
Yeah, it's not overly toppy.
Yeah, I mean, there's some high end in it, but not so. You know, advice to you guys: roll your treble down. You know, give it a try.
Especially on a Marshall.
Turn up the mids.
Turn the mids up.
Mid-range is a good thing. Stop scooping your mids.
And that one took me a while to figure out.
That was our generation that started that. A few bands, you know,
yeah, that was our fault.
Metallicas, and then everyone started scooping the mids. It was like, oh, it sounds heavier. Well, no, it sounds bassier and thinner, but all the oomph, all the guitar frequencies,
all the meat is in the middle.
It's all in the mid.
You go play live with that, and you disappear.
Which is why I was loving Orange amps before the one I heard today. I was loving that sound. I was loving the Bogner sound, which is a very mid-rangey sound, which is what I ended up with was the Bogner. And I still have a Marshall as well, but the Marshall is what gives you that really, if you're not careful, that really toppy, bright bite. You need some of that bite, but I mean, if you listen to guys like Billy Gibbons and things like that, I mean, there's really no top in that.
Right. So, like, if you can't hear your guitar, instead of turning the volume up, turn the mid-range up first. Try that.
Yes.
And it'll come right up.
Except if you were using a Marshall.
If you're using a Marshall, I would have the mid-range on 10 anyways.
Right.
Yeah. Just have it all.
Depending on which Marshall, if it's an early Marshall, a super lead, the treble can be all the way up. The bass can be off, and it's still.
Plenty.
But if you're talking about a master volume Marshall, a JMP, JCM 800, I walk immediately over to a Marshall. I take the treble knob, I turn it off. I put the presence at about 9 o'clock. Crank the bass, crank the mids, and then see where I am.
That's kind of how I have to do the DSL
and
too.
You're not turning the treble off. You're not turning the treble off. There's tons of treble already.
The amp is inherently treble.
Yes.
Okay.
They are bright.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I guess my tone guys were Tony Iommi.
Oh, yes.
I loved Black Sabbath when I was starting out, and then, like the mayor here, I became really into Alex Lifeson's tone with the effects and the chorus and the swishy, swampy flangers, and then I just completely got away from all that, and I currently use no effects except for a wah-wah pedal, and I have a pretty powerful Mesa Boogie amp head that's been hot rodded, I guess, a few times. And the only other thing that I can attest to is that I prefer a very low impedance or low low output pickups.
Amen, brother.
Which
Yeah.
for me just makes the amp do all the work, opposed to a Jeff Beck or some of the other really overly trebly ones. And for me, that really makes a big difference. And I became a complete believer in just plug it straight in. And like Rich was saying, you know, and you want to clean it up, just turn it down, right on the guitar, and essentially, I've learned ways to be able to fake a chorus and to fake certain things, you know, without having you know, a ton of stomp boxes, and I had invested, I had tons and tons of stuff.
Well, one of the other things that it's, you know, go to a guitar tech and give them, I'd say between 15 and 30 bucks to put a tapering mod on your volume pot. And so that you get a gradual sweep from 0 to 10 on your volume knob, and then you'll be able to back off your amp
I will.
without it going completely dead.
Kevin's there to wait for us.
Let's just finish our whip around here.
Okay.
Okay.
We'll go.
I'd say a little different than everybody else here because I guess, well, because I'm older, but I mean, I sort of experienced each effect as it came out, and it's like, I think way back, and I can remember
Analog delay box.
silly songs that people here never heard of probably, but there was an old one in the 60s, what was it? Listen to the Rhythm of the Falling.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
You
yeah,
know, thing
yeah.
with this
You're not that much
really
older than we
heavy
are.
reverb in that in
Yeah.
it, and it really wasn't a delay, but I'm assuming it was some type of a very weak trem sound in the background. It just got me into effects, and then of course when Cream came out,
Cream
the
was a
wah
huge
wah,
one.
just, you know, that effect. Oh, that's my #1 effect.
Yeah.
And I kind of went through the whole thing, right on through it. I mean, one day you come up with a Proco rap, and one day you come up with this and down the line.
But if you took the effects off of it, what are you talking about? If you just for the tone of the guitar and the amp, who are you going for?
My very favorite, if you want just more of a straight tone, and yeah, it's going to be high gain, I like Santana on his earliest stuff. That was probably my favorite.
Did you consciously try to pursue something similar?
Yeah, I guess I did, but at the same time that I was into Santana, I also got into Alice Cooper Band. And they used to have 2 guitars in that original band that I just thought were fantastic.
Buxton and
Yeah, and Michael Bruce.
yeah.
And the deal was, I happened to see a Cream film, wasn't video then, but and it showed Clapton with a wah-wah with an SG. And then I had just come home from a concert where I had seen both of the guitars with SGs. The only difference being the Buxton had a 3 humbucker custom, and Michael Bruce had the 2 humbucker deluxe.
I love those 3 guitars.
So I went out and bought the 2 humbucker deluxe SG, and
Still have it?
no, that particular one